Shalom. I'm Rabbi Josh Caruso from Anshe Chesed Fairmount Temple. In advance, I want to thank everybody for wearing their masks. We're going to adhere to that, save for those who are speaking at the service, which is just two of us. So we thank you in advance for being mindful of that during this extraordinary time. In the words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything. A time for every experience under heaven. A time for dancing and a time for wailing. A time for birthing and a time for dying. A time for speaking and a time for silence. A time for seeking and a time for losing. The time of mourning is a complicated time, filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service with the recitation of psalms and prayers, thus linking John's life with the 3,000-year-old tradition of the people of Israel and the eternity of God. I invite you to join with me in the recitation of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul. God guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Thou prepare a table for me in the presence of mine enemies, and you have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. When great trees fall, from Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory suddenly sharpened examines, gnaws on kind words, unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. I know John's family are honored that you're here today to comfort them. We know that so many have joined on Streamcast. We know many in John's family who could not be here are joining as well. So we're glad everybody could be together on a day when we really don't want to join together for this reason at all. But we are here and grateful for family, grateful for comfort. I know Risa wants to share a few words on behalf of her immediate family.
I'm honored to share some of our memories of our dad and celebrate what a truly one-of-a-kind, extraordinary person he was. Although our time with him was cut way too short, he left us with so many funny stories, sweet memories, and examples of how to be a good person. He was a humble and modest guy, pretty informal, although he absolutely hated being called dude. It is not in his nature to brag about his many accomplishments or be too showy, so I will try to do my best to do it for him. My dad was fiercely determined, perseverant, and tenacious. There was no obstacle too great or problem too big. He fought hard for what he believed in and what he thought was right. My dad did this thing that we affectionately called New Yorking, which was him somehow insisting and convincing his way into getting anything done. I felt only a little bad for snotty customer service reps for saying, "Okay, my dad's gonna talk to you now," and handing the phone over. He was so proud of me and my sister, which instilled an unwavering sense of pride in who we are. He loved our mom truly and set an example of how we deserve to be treated by our future partners. He wanted us to have the easiest and most comfortable life and worked very hard to provide that. He set a high standard for us always. He never skimped on things that brought us joy. All he wanted was to see us happy. He was proud of our faith and enjoyed participating in the many joyous traditions together with family and friends. He always put family and friends first. He did good things for people because that's what he believed was right, not for the recognition. He set a high bar for us to succeed, but never put confinement on what that would look like. He truly was an unassuming genius, never speaking down to anyone for knowing less, except the occasional car mechanic when they tried to argue with him about mandatory but unnecessary service. Only when one of us would challenge him would he admit that he does actually know everything. As many of you know, 6 years ago, actually around this time, my last college apartment burned down to the ground. The mess that ensued with picking up all of the pieces as I was supposed to be graduating and moving on to bigger and brighter chapter was deeply upsetting. Not only did my dad take off work to join my mom to immediately meet me in Athens to help me sort everything out and make arrangements, he also drove back on my last day on campus after finals to help get some answers and closure. The investigation of a fire that uprooted myself, 5 roommates, and a few other students was taking a long time without a lot of conclusive information. Something fishy was going on, and my dad decided he was personally going to get to the bottom of it. Somehow he made friends with the fire marshal and convinced him to go back into the remains of the structure, even though they were very unsafe, take pictures, and try to pull out anything that might have made it through all the fire, smoke, and water. I stood downstairs on the sidewalk while my dad made trip after trip back into the rubble to deliver another few items for me to go through. He even pulled out some of my roommates' things. My dad spent his Saturday, after working all week, driving the 3.5 hours to Athens, rummaging all day, and then driving home in one day. While this seems like an instance of my dad going way above and beyond, using his determination to figure out a solution to an impossible situation, this was a regular thing for my dad. He was the most dependable. I realized nobody is like my dad. Nobody is as smart or resourceful or tenacious. Nobody could ever replace him or even hold a candle to him. I will miss the way he always asked what channel I was picking up when I wore my hair in a bun on my head. The way he always told anyone who was leaving to watch out for the deer no matter the time of day or season. He had his repertoire of jokes and taglines, which he repeated constantly, even though we stopped laughing at them long ago, that will forever ring in my ears. I will miss his eyes lighting up at the chance to throw anything on the grill, especially in the summer. Bernie, our dog, perched on the bench beside him with a cold beer in hand. I will miss calling him to ask all sorts of questions, and no matter how nonsensical, him giving sure and decisive advice. I will miss getting excited about good food with him. Luckily, once I grew out of my picky eating stage, we shared similar tastes in New York-style pizza, chicken wings, fresh seafood, barbecue, anything that was almost painfully spicy, and Jewish brunch and bagels. I will even miss him about to yell at me, but instead calling me Samara, Sherry, Bernie, Lily, or JJ, sometimes going down the whole list while still managing to miss my actual name that he helped give me. I will miss his block letter handwriting on Post-it notes. I know that so much of who I am is from him, and because of him, although I would have never openly admitted that until recently. My dad was phenomenally creative. The many of you who have asked my dad for repair advice know firsthand that my dad could come up with an excellent and functional solution for whatever mess you made. I know we may have detected annoyance when he laughed with exasperation when we handed something over that seemed beyond repair, but I like to think this is what kept him sharp. He applied this creative talent to birth a lifetime of inventions. From every large kitchen appliance that GE makes, water filtration systems, which made me the only kid at kindergarten to know that the good water from the fridge was called reverse osmosis, Dirt Devil vacuums at Royal Appliance, Vitamixes, the Butt Kicker audio amplifier, Friel milkshake machines. And a side story about that is when my sister was attending OU and they were first finishing the new student center, my dad had a Friel machine placed in the food court because that's just the way he operated. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that my dad helped develop smart appliance technology. Remember the fridges with tablets on the front? Yeah, that was him too. He was an integral piece in products that are used by millions of people all around the world. His latest consulting project was with Sunless Inc., the maker of salon spray tanning equipment and products. One day, not that long ago, instead of doing what I was supposed to be doing, I was bothering him in his home office, and he casually asked me if I ever heard of the products that Sunless makes. My face lit up. Finally, something I might know more about than my dad. I was very interested in the work he was doing, and I hope he enjoyed discussing it with me as much as I did. My dad also mentioned the CEO of that company often. She is a highly respected businesswoman. He was proud to work for this organization and used this as a frequent reminder that the world is mine for the taking and that I can still be anything I want to be when I grow up. One day, I too could be a CEO if I wanted. His footprint is left on tons of consumer and commercial products and technologies. Throughout his professional career, he amassed dozens and dozens of patents. He took a lot of pride in his work, and now as an adult, I realize what a big deal it is to be awarded even one single patent. My dad made it look easy. On top of this, in his free time or between projects, he always had a side project. He was never idle. Our dad fostered creativity and imagination in my sister and me always. When we lived in Louisville before the basement was finished, we were allowed to draw in chalk all over the cement walls. Somewhere exists photos of our creations that our dad took before the drywall went up because he loved our drawing so much. Also, when we lived in Louisville, my dad used to pretend his silver stick shift Saab was an airplane, and that me and or my sister were the co-pilots in the cockpit. As he drove down a specific straightaway with big old trees arching over the canopy, he allowed us to pretend with his radar detector, late 90s cell phone, headset, and other various cords and gadgets so we could help navigate our plane's safe takeoff from the runway. Speaking of the silver Saab, when I was really little, somehow I stole a few moments of no supervision and found the fat black Sharpie my dad kept in his door panel for obsessively touching up the exterior trim. I decided this marker looked amazing and wanted to give it a test right on the door armrest leather. There I wrote a giant R-I-S-A, complete with backwards S. I realized quickly what I had done and that the marker was permanent. While I'm sure my dad was furious, I got a taste for his colorful language. I don't recall being in a ton of trouble, which is an early memory of my dad's extreme patience for what became a lifetime of me and my sister's frequent mischief and misfortunes. This car was later sold to a coworker/friend, and my dad called it the limited edition Katz signature edition. He exercised this same patience when he went to Atlanta to visit my sister and spent the weekend repairing what looked like a crime scene from a very anxious Gracie, my sister's dog, during a bad storm. And again, about 5 years ago, when I missed an exit and tried to get off at a dark, unfamiliar, and very short ramp, hit the curb and managed to dislodge the whole wheel and axle. I don't know if that's what it's called. I'm just saying car words. Sorry, Dad. My parents came downtown at probably 2 a.m. to come save the day, call a tow truck, and take me home. I think my dad was equal parts mad and impressed at how much damage I managed to cause. Yet he made sure my car was back in safe working order ASAP. My dad did anything for us, and our interest became his. He grew up playing soccer, so when I joined our local rec league, he soon after became the team coach. I was so proud to be the coach's kid, and even though I was a massive pain in the butt, we got to spend a lot of time together that way. When I joined a sorority in college, he proudly became a Sigma Kappa dad, wearing the gear I got him without protest, coming to visit for our dad's weekends, even staying in the guest room at the house. Everything he did for me and Samara was out of love. Our dad loved a good laugh. We heard many stories of his dogs, Oliver and Stanley, named after comedians. We learned who the Three Stooges were from a poster my dad had of them hanging in the shop part of our garage. He and I bonded over our shared love for stand-up comedy. Sometimes my dad would laugh so hard he would do this sort of silent wheeze laugh and lose his breath. He was not shy to do this in public, which usually caused a scene and got me and my sister really going. So our mom was left with the three laughing hyenas. It's likely that the joke told to instigate this behavior was bathroom-related. He was always goofy and could elicit a laugh in most situations, regardless of appropriateness. I was allowed to watch movies like Men in Black and Mrs. Doubtfire early in life, and those quickly became family favorites. At my dad's encouragement and my mom's chagrin, I repeated lines from both and laughed with my dad, even though only one of us knew it was inappropriate. Although I'm fairly certain my dad and I would both agree that it would have been easier or preferable for me to live elsewhere the last 2 years, I am now feeling extra lucky I had the chance to spend the time with him. He died how he lived, on his own terms, fighting tooth and nail, not taking no for an answer. Trying every possible way until he could find a solution. He was a man of principle, proud of who he was and what he could create. He was a pillar of strength and continued till the very end to carry our stress and worry. I fully thought that he'd be able to fix this too, as we took for granted his ability to make the impossible happen. He taught us how to be resourceful, how to stand up for ourselves, and how to ask for help. This is a moment we would never be prepared for. Nothing in my world will ever be in as pristine working order again. My dad left us with so many gifts, and it's our job to go out and use them. as he would say, you better be doing what you're supposed to be doing. Dad, you were so admired by all, and we will miss you always. We'll get to share some pappies together in another time. Until we meet again, love you forever, Dad.
When Will I Be Myself Again? By Rabbi Louis John Aaron. When will I be myself again? Some Tuesday, perhaps, in the late afternoon, sitting quietly with a cup of tea and a cookie. On Wednesday, same time or later, you will stir from a nap and see him. You will pick up the phone to call him. You will hear his voice, unexpected advice, and maybe argue, and you will not be frightened, and you will not be sad, and you will not be alone, not alone at all. And your tears will warm you, but not today, and not tomorrow, and not tomorrow's tomorrow, but someday, some Tuesday, late in the afternoon, sitting quietly with a cup of tea and a cookie, and you will be yourself again. Let's see here. Let's see here. Apologies. John would have fixed it. You're absolutely right. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov said, "The Jew must always focus on the inner intelligence of every matter and bind himself to the wisdom and inner intelligence that is to be found in each thing, in order that the intelligence which is in each thing may enlighten him, that he may draw closer to God through that thing. For the inner intelligence is a great light that shines for a person in all his ways. As it is written, a person's wisdom causes his face to shine." Jonathan Katz had that wisdom, and he had that inner intelligence. John celebrated knowledge and understanding. It was his portal into the world. It was one of the things that gave him lift and life. Rabbi Avi Strasberg wrote, "When we seek to find understanding in everything, in every action that we do, in every object, in every person, then we grow in our understanding of the world. It's this understanding, an understanding that brings holiness into our lives, that brings light to our face." Indeed, we were all the beneficiaries of John's abilities and his quest to figure out how things worked. For John, it was this way from the beginning. Born in Cleveland and raised by Rose and the late Erwin Katz, with his siblings Andrea, Jamie, and Jeremy, John's mind was always churning. Andrea said, as a child, he found his way to his life's passion first with putting together models, then making new bicycles out of old ones, eventually to cars that paid his way through college. He was the sibling we all relied upon to fix things from toilets to finances to disrupted lives. He was a builder, creator, and overall repairman. John followed his own path in life. He was a unicorn, a Jewish man with a well-worn tool belt. He taught me how to drive a stick shift. He helped restore a car for me to drive. He was beloved by all of us. John was also playful and irreverent at times, as you alluded to, Risa. Many have commented, including Andrea, about his readiness to make the inevitable flatulence joke again and again. He simply had school-aged humor that he never quite outgrew. Jeremy shared the following. I have countless happy memories of my brother John. Some of my earliest ones include him teaching me sign language. However, as most of you know, John only knew one sign. He helped me grow my vocabulary in special ways, so much so that my elementary school teachers called home to let my mother know, and I learned how dangerous a finger pull could be if the wrong finger was selected. John was also respected and admired by his siblings, easily filling the role of big brother. Jeremy continued, John was off to college when I was very young. I was always excited when I knew he was coming home, so much so I would sit in the front yard for hours and wait for his car to pull up. When he was home from college, I could not wait for the family dinners. It was my father. If my father was cooking, we might complain about eating very late, but the food was always amazing. If my mother was cooking, he'd complain about the quality of the meal and start making constant jokes. Ultimately, he would laugh so hard, tears would be streaming down his face. It would routinely end with him offering to buy us all Burger King. He was always teaching me something. Some of you might know this, but when he was younger, John was quite the botanist. I was amazed at how a particular species of plant seemed to flourish in our backyard. I was also his assistant in the garage before I was 10 years old. Not many people my age, or any age for that matter, got to play with MGs, Jaguars, Austin Healey's, and Triumphs. I remember once he built a dune buggy for someone. He took me for a ride in it. I recall him doing a wheelie and being really excited. I wish more of his mechanical ability rubbed off on me. He did give me my first tool set, and I absorbed enough knowledge to avoid accidental electrocution, so not too bad, I guess. Anyone who knew John was aware of his brilliant mind, a true mechanical genius. He seemed to know how any machine worked and how to fix or make it better. He was gifted with his hands and was able to create or build anything he could imagine. I'm probably going to have to sell my house now because I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to fix anything without his guidance. We both traveled a lot for work. We would routinely call or text each other from cities around the country and have each other guess where we were based on some obscure picture. We shared a fondness for bourbon, particularly Kentucky bourbon, and although John really only lived here for a brief period of his life, he was nostalgic for anything from New York. If it said Katz, Brooklyn, or Zabar's on it, it was a winner. Because of our age difference, John was much more than a brother to me. I can't think of a single important life decision I made without consulting him. And even the trivial ones, he always had useful knowledge about everything, literally everything. John was a very special person, and his passing is so difficult for me. I regret not being able to spend more time with him over the years, and I'm sad that I won't be able to help him shop for the Mini Cooper he planned to buy. I know John would take great comfort in the outpouring of love from his family and friends. Family and friends meant so much to him. He was truly an amazing person who I will miss dearly. Jamie wrote, "To me, my siblings, my family, and all our friends growing up, he will always be our big brother. He took us all under his wing and guided us through many mundane tasks, fixing toilets, prepping a car for paint, etc., and great adventures, going to see auto racing at Watkins Glen, Midnight Auto, etc. He was a guy comfortable in his own skin and confident in his abilities, a true presence in any situation. We love him and will miss him." John's oldest nephew, Harry, sent the following. "He was the first person to teach me a lot of valuable life skills. How to change my car's oil, what a 401k is, how to leave a job gracefully, but fully compensated. More than anything, though, I'm blessed that John was a role model for me, demonstrating how to be a good man, a great brother, a loving father, a supportive husband. I'm sad I never got to work in the garage with him, but I'm so thankful for all the moments and memories we shared. I know I'll cherish them for the rest of my life. I miss you so much already, Uncle John." Scripture says that a person's wisdom causes his face to shine, and John's face shined like the Hanukkah candles we are lighting this week. The best part of John's wisdom is that he didn't keep it just to himself. He shared it. As Risa put it, his priority was our needs. He was happiest when he was diagnosing your car engine, your refrigerator, or computer, and he would do it with a stethoscope. For real. John was happiest when he not only took a car to the body shop, but when he would instruct the mechanic with his guidance. Frankly, he just couldn't help himself. He didn't know how to be idle. Contentment was found in an emergency trip to Home Depot to fix something in the girls' dorm rooms, or in playing diagnostician for family or friends who needed his assistance. He not only fixed things, but he used his wisdom to create. He built things from scratch and made wood bowls that were so fastidiously crafted that it appeared as if they were factory made. He was an inventor, a creator, a thinker, an incredible colleague and boss. His co-worker, Beth Ann Coffin, sent me the following note about working for and with John. "We had a small office. There was myself, 3 engineers, and John, our boss. John was the head of our little office family. I called him our fearless leader, but he actually viewed us all as one equal unit. I can honestly say that I have never had a better working report and more fun working with someone than John. As many have probably shared with you, John was wildly funny. I looked forward to seeing his car pull into the parking lot every day, and I know the other 3 guys felt the same. As a boss, John was fair, honest, incredibly compassionate, respectful, and truly cared for each of us employees. By example, he motivated us to look at problems differently, be creative, work hard, find solutions, but always have fun. As an engineer, John was always coming up with new ways to do things better. Gary, one of the engineers, joked in our group text last night, toasting John, that John was already up in heaven improving things. John welcomed all ideas, loved sitting around the conference table collaborating with our team. He was a wonderful and patient teacher. We all respected John so much that it was easy to work hard for him. You wanted to impress him, to show him what he taught you. And in turn, John would spontaneously declare, "Lunch is on me today." Or after long hours into the evening, he'd treat the group to pizza. John had a wonderful way of making you feel valued and appreciated. Myself, Gary, Perry, and Henry all adored John. We adored working with him and for him. John's creed was that he would never ask an employee to do something that he himself would not roll his sleeves up to do. The world lost a great inventor, engineer, thinker, motivator, collaborator, and we lost a great boss. But more importantly, a friend. I will forever miss the endless laughter and daily banter. John lived to help the important people in his life. He took the girls to work and they helped him with his projects and loved playing with the many prototype toys on his desk. Risa memorably served as sidekick to John's work at GE with voice recognition, and whose love for bagel bites lives on in a product he designed. And by fashioning her own experiments, the dry erase board, it was as if Risa felt like she really worked there herself. Samara was well trained by her dad to do simple repairs and believed that every kid had a father like John. Didn't every parent teach your kid how to fix things and put up drywall? More generally, he exposed her to interests that became foundational hobbies and passions, like photography and musical artists like James Taylor and Carole King. And if you were a friend or extended family, you were part of his network. He would always be there for you. Sherry's mom would routinely make a list of things for John to do for her, and he would make sure to take care of them. Arlene, he and you shared a special, close bond. He truly loved you, saw you as a mother figure to him too. Friends were like family. Meryl Goldberg shared some reflections. John was not just a fixer, but a master inventor too. I was always so impressed by the coolness factor of the kind of things he invented and perfected at work. Always things that make our lives easier, better, more fun, more streamlined, more beautiful, more delicious. And then when COVID hit, and John was already undergoing chemo treatments at this time, he and his BFF, my husband, decided they would create an elaborate lighting system for the basement home gym my husband wanted to create. John stayed up nights working on this project, brainstorming the best, safest, and most efficient way to wire the lights with my husband, and despite his own health situation, or maybe because of it, he ultimately provided us with a perfectly lit and rewired workout room which would rival any gym. John gave us literal and metaphorical light. He always did, and he always will. Meryl, Jeff, Sherry, and John were close friends, and Meryl shared the nature of their relationship, how John brought so much love along with him. John and Sherry, she writes, always made us feel so special and welcome in their home. We loved having them over to our house for dinner too, spending so many birthdays and holidays together. We loved going out to dinner always late, usually the last diners in most restaurants, since they were the only friends we have who are always on the same late dinner schedule as we are. John enjoyed fine dining as much as he loved burgers and bar food. Beer or bourbon, it was all good. He kept a beautiful wine collection, always marked the date and reason we brought him any new bottle. And if we didn't enjoy the wine right then, he proceeded to store it at the perfect temperature. Always made you feel like you had presented him with the most important gift ever, even if it was a basic bottle and nothing fancy. And then at the end of our meals together, coffee and dessert was another passion. He always offered us a cup of homemade espresso after any meal at their house, again making every moment count. He was a family man. His wife and his girls meant everything to him. His whole existence was devoted to providing for them, protecting them, ensuring that their world was safe, secure, and certain. He wanted the best for them, and he was so very proud of them, each in their own special way. They were like different flavors of his favorite ice creams. We see a lot of John in each one of them, and we hope to keep John's light very close in our hearts and our souls as well. He taught us a lot, and although the light in our world has dimmed, having lost his, I know his light is shining so brightly above us all right now. And likely he is fixing the lighting up in heaven too, because, well, that's what John does, and the world is a better place because of him. He will be sorely and forever missed, but this world is brighter and better and safer. It's a safer place for having had him in it. His memory will surely be a blessing on us all. Thank you, Meryl. John and Sherry met at the State University of New York College at Buffalo through mutual friends. Not surprisingly, John was a bit of a goofball. He was the quiet instigator, but never the one to get caught in the act. Regardless, he was the one laughing the loudest after a practical joke was played. Still, John was engaged in his learnings and more than willing to help out a classmate better understand science and engineering. Joey Himmelfarb, his former college buddy, sent me this memory. I met John at Buffalo State in 1978. John was studying engineering technology and I was studying physics. He always had a knack for helping me understand the principles of physics by using real-world examples of engineering. John wanted to teach me about amplitudes and frequencies and how sound is produced. It made perfect sense to John to place his two huge, ginormous speakers on the window in the windowsill of his dorm room. One of his favorite songs that he would play on his state-of-the-art turntable that he said sounded awesome through those speakers was Fantasy by Earth, Wind & Fire. He would crank up the volume, and that song would fill not just the quad, but I suspect the entire campus as well. I learned to love that song and can't help but think of John and all the good times we had when I hear it. It was clear that John and Sherry had noticed one another here and there on campus, as you do when you're in college, taking note of someone, wondering if you'll ever meet again, if you'll connect. But one night, they did connect at an eatery called Midnight Bite. Sherry certainly thought he was handsome, and they were clearly drawn to one another, with the added bonus that they were both Jewish. They kept in touch every day thereafter, and after only a few months, John brought Sherry home to meet the parents. Sherry knew John was for him, not least of all because he was a little offbeat, funny, goofy. He even liked to disco dance. In truth, Sherry also had a little of that goofy side, and she could find a partner in crime. Sherry put it best when she said, "We were a good team." That was certainly the case, wherever they lived, Rochester, Harrisburg, Louisville, finally settling down in Cleveland. They shared in the joy of raising two amazing kids whose soul and spirit derive in part from their dad. Samar and Risa, your dad lives on in you. You know, the Katz has arrived in Cleveland just 1 year prior to me starting my time at Fairmount Temple. And for the last 18 plus years, it has been my privilege to know all of you, to be inspired by the good people that you are. Indeed, it was my privilege to know John, to speak to him just prior to him breathing his last breaths. He couldn't say much, but it meant so much to hear his voice, and it was so very hard to say the prayer that we say when we know someone is at the close of their life, and so very hard to feel the pain of what it was like for Sherry, for Samara, and Risa. A person's wisdom causes his face to shine. That's how John shined. It was John's superpower to channel mental acuity for good in the world, to make life easier, more enjoyable, to help the people in his life thrive. John's sister Andrea wrote to me, "It is painful to imagine a world without him." It certainly is. And yet, he wouldn't want any of us to grieve too long. He knew that life awaited. Repairs needed to be made. Experiments needed to be improved. Tasks needed to be completed. Healing needed to happen in this world. Maybe the greatest tribute to John would be for all of us to strive to make life a little more fun, to laugh like crazy, even at the most irreverent things, to be curious, to work hard, to leave no stone unturned, to treat cherished colleagues and friends like family, to love so deeply that when it is our time to breathe our last, we have no regrets. I don't believe John did either, because that's the way he lived. Zichrono livracha. May John's memory be an enduring blessing for us all. And let us say, Amen. We pause for a few moments as we consider John's life and all the gifts he brought to each one of us. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you, and when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give to them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me and the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live on in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. I invite you now to rise at your seats, if you were able, for the recitation of El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona, תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת יונתן מרדכי בן יצחק ושושנה, שלח לעולמו, בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני ונחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen. El Malei Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the soul of our dear Jonathan Katz, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. As we turn to the conclusion of our service, once again, I know I speak on behalf of the family and thanking you for being here, even if you're joining us by Streamcast. Jonathan is survived by Sherry, and of course, the loving father of Sam, Risa, brother of Andrea, and Jamie and Susan, Jeremy and Sandra. He was a cherished uncle adored son of Rose and the late Erwin Katz. We will continue now with the burial at Zion Memorial Park. And while there is no formal Shiva visitation, we know those of you who are here are invited back to Fairmount Temple to join them for a very small and socially distanced gathering in the social hall. Shiva gatherings nightly will take place at 7:30 p.m. beginning tonight over Zoom. This is being arranged by Samara, so if you'd like the Zoom details, you can contact her by text or email or Facebook Messenger to get the details. Once again, each night of the 7 nights beginning tonight will be a Zoom Shiva at 7:30 p.m. where you can join together on your screens.